Last class we talked about how to read your map. This class is going to be closer to how to use your map and then how to use your compass as well. So we're going to, now that we know how to read it, we know what contour lines are, we know what the terrain features look like, we're going to talk about moving from point to point between terrain features. And so I'm going to be your instructor, and we are going to talk about compass and navigation techniques. And so I'm going to minimize all these windows real quick, and then Dave or George, if you're watching the chat right now, I'm just going to focus on presenting. And so first year I did this class, I didn't really think about why, because it was obvious to me. And then I got a question like, why do I need this stuff? I'm always going to be on a trail anyways. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, even when you plan to be on a trail. There are accidents in search and rescue every year. These were all in the same pretty close period of time in 2018. And then this is from a backpacking trip that I did. We had went, it was a early to mid-May trip, maybe late April. I think it was early May though. And we had not planned to see snow. I was in my trail runners, trip reports, you know, I did not expect to see the snow like this. And then we went there and we showed up, and here's what the trail looked like. So that was pretty hard to just follow the trail in those conditions. I've also made a few mistakes along the way. We're not really, this is a GPS error right here, where maybe this peak or something was blocking my satellite reception. This little guy right over here, that's not a GPS error. That's a user error. And it really impacted the trip. We still had a successful trip. See, we made it all the way to the top of Mount Rainier. But we were sitting there, and the reason I know this is because I have the GPS track. For a variety of reasons, missed flights, repacking gear. Those are the two main reasons, just drive time, Mount Rainier. It was about 9:15 when we got to this spot where our turnoff was, where this spot right here. And we were looking at it. We were looking up ahead of us, and we saw a bunch of snow. And it was already 9:15, it was getting dark. And we're like, man, we really want to put our crampons on right now. Do we really want to rope up? Is this really a spot where we want to transition and keep going and go up the interglacier? Because our camp for the night was right over the top of this prow. And we're like, well, hey, wait a minute. There's a nice trail right here going off to the right. We could, you know, that's going to keep us on rocks. That's going to keep us on, from having to rope up. It's going to keep us from having to put our crampons on. We're going to, you know, maybe we'll mix it, we'll pick up time. We'll get into, you know, Camp Sherman a little bit early. And we didn't stop to check the map. We're like, sweet, how many trails are there up here? And we took it to the top of the ridge. And that's when we learned that actually there can be more than one trail up there. And it was it ended right there at the top of the ridge. You can see there's some little blue dots here and whatnot, but for the most part, the trail petered out right there. And it does not go to Camp Sherman. And this ridge right here is not easy to walk. And it was, what time was it? 11:45. When we finally got back to our intersection, in 11:45 p.m., finally got back to our intersection and just threw down our sleeping bags and decided to bivouac right there. What should have happened is when we got to that intersection, we should have stopped, used our GPS to determine our grid coordinates, plotted our location on the map, and then made the correct choice about which way to go. That would have got us to Camp Sherman that night. We would have had that. We had already planned to use the entire next day as a rest day, because I had a buddy coming in from New York. So we had planned to have an acclimation day at Camp Sherman. So that's why we were still able to have a successful trip, is because we had that extra timeline built in there. but his acclimation day was cut short because we had to do the next 3 miles up to Camp Sherman, which is right down here, the next day. Our successful trip is that Trapper Creek backpack that we did in, let's see, what does it say down here? I can't read it. Looks like it's too small on my screen. I don't see the date. But when we started out here at the Trapper Creek trailhead, and it looked great. We took some pictures. It's bright, sunny, dirt paths. You know, typical early May backpack down in the western side of the gorge. We thought it, we thought it was going to be great. We came around. We got behind in the shadow. This is the north side of this peak here, and all of a sudden we started hitting snow all the way across here. And then we got out of snow again when we got up to the top towards the observation peak right here. Then we hit snow all the way back down and even a little bit down in this area until we hit camp. And so right in here, we had a decision point. I was like, did this just become a really long day hike? Did this just become a short out and back backpack? Or are we going to keep going and we're going to try to do the whole loop? And we looked at the map. We had a good map. We had paper maps. We had our GPS track already plotted. And we decided, we looked at our equipment. We knew what the weather forecast was going to be. We decided that we wanted to continue. And we had a successful time. You'll see if you have the handout, that is my track. You'll see there's places where we got off the trail. We didn't necessarily follow the trail one for one. But in general, we stayed on our loop where we wanted to be. And we were able to navigate successfully, even though a lot of it, the trail looked like this.